either way, let's talk about this book. So we're talking about the Deviant today. This is new number 1, of course, from James whatever the fourth and Joshua Hickson on the illustration. It's an Image book, and this one's cool. I'm not going to go into James's back catalog of titles because he's done a billion and everybody knows his name, so there's no point in doing that. Joshua Hickson, like pretty famous for The Plot. If you guys remember that Vault book that started like a few years ago, I don't know, there's a book up there, The Plot. But yeah, I really liked that book a lot. That was a cool book. And then do you guys remember Shanghai Red? Did you read that? The like on sea book, that was a really cool book too. But he did that. So those are like his 2 biggest things. He's done some other stuff and done covers and everything, obviously. But that's pretty much where Joshua Hickson has been the last few years. And then this book, I know I always stumble through these. You know what? I should start making Nick read these since he works at a school. He could probably read things much better than me. But anyways,
you want? I could do it. You want me to do it?
You got a synopsis in front of you?
I can pull it up.
Grab one by me and Benny Stahl. So yeah, that's a nice haircut you got going on. I
can read it. I got it.
Do it. Heck yeah.
Snow falls over Milwaukee in 1972. A blood-stained Santa Claus commits unimaginable atrocities against young men. 50 years later, a troubled young writer interviews this so-called deviant killer, who still maintains his innocence from behind bars. And as Christmas approaches once again, the past returns, wielding a sharpened axe. Eisner-winning writer James Tynion IV and acclaimed artist Joshua Hickson. The Plot, Children of the Woods. I never read Children of the Woods, but I did read The Plot. The Plot was pretty good. They unite for a pitch black holiday horror story.
Beautifully read.
Well, just in time for the holidays.
For real. Well, it's cool because like we're between the two, like, you know, the 2 big ones for me, at least. You got Halloween, you got Christmas. Like, it always sucks because Halloween's, you know, I think we talked about this before, but like Halloween's a thing for like, you know, a week or 2, and then it's gone. But Christmas is around for like the whole 4th quarter of the year. So you know, Halloween just gets buried pretty quickly. So it's always cool whenever you have these, I don't know, like horror themed like Christmas things to bring a little bit of Halloween back into it. So I'm excited we have that.
Yeah, I love the mixing of the 2 holidays. It always leads to pretty fun stories.
Exactly.
Right. I was going to ask Benny for our ignorant American listeners and for me, what's Thanksgiving like up in Canada? Do you guys do the same stuff?
We have pretty similar traditions. Yeah, we celebrate it a bit earlier, but we have typically turkeys to eat, but usually my family tradition is to have a big bowl of chili in the center.
Oh, nice.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
I like that.
Like just regular chili, like turkey chili, or are you eating the chili and the turkey like in unison? Like
last time we did have both the bird and the pot, so we were able to have a small bowl beside some cuts.
I was about to say, dude, that's like a feast. Like y'all are going to town on Thanksgiving over there.
My family goes all out for holiday feasts.
I want to see. I would love to go to a Canadian Thanksgiving where they have a turkey in the middle and they just dump chili all over the turkey and then they eat it like that.
Ooh, you're giving me ideas, Nick.
Yeah, careful. Benny might share some pics next time.
That'd be awesome. Also, Benny, you should start a Thanksgiving-inspired comic called "The Bird in the Pot."
That would be awesome. I definitely read that.
There's already a pot calling the kettle black pun in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. you could definitely squeeze one out of that for sure. Well, yeah, let's talk about this book. There's like so much to talk about with this book. I don't even know where to start. I guess just, you know, narratively, and I want to pass it along to you guys, of course, to tell your, you know, versions of it or whatever. But you know, narratively, this takes place in, I can't say present day because it actually takes place in the future, you know, a couple of weeks from now in December, which we're not in yet. Yeah, kind of scary. I was thinking about it. I'm like, wait, this hasn't happened yet. So there's still time for this to happen, which freaks me out. So hopefully not, fingers crossed. But yeah, this starts out in Chicago in December 2023. kind of shows our main. I don't know if he's the main character. Yeah, I guess the main character of the book. Kind of like in a department store and the stuff he's going through, and then flashes back to 1973 in Milwaukee, where all of this is kind of starting to take place. There's the deviant killer, dressed as like a crazy psychotic looking Santa Claus with I don't know what's going on there, like a porcelain doll face or something underneath all that. I'm not sure, but he's killing and murdering and super gory, stringing up young boys and stuff like that, and somebody else gets pinned for it, and we visit that person in jail and do some interviews with him, and then kind of it looks like the book's going to wrap up, and then the murders start taking place again. So that's kind of what's going on in the book there. There's obviously themes here and a lot to dissect and talk about. So yeah, I'd love to hear y'all's perspective of it, what you guys thought and all of that. Benny, you had like some like pretty unique perspective on this. So if you want to start with that would be awesome.
Yeah. So the two kind of characters we hang around with are both queer. Michael is interviewing Mr. Olson for Behind the Christmas Massacre.
Call him Randall.
Right away. Yeah. And they right away one identifies the other as queer just by talking with him for a short while. And I thought it was pretty interesting to see how the story all kind of tied together. It seems, I have it written down somewhere here, one sec. The interview with Mr. Olson talks about what it's like to be deviant or degenerate in the eyes of society. And it somewhat compares just criminal behavior to homosexuality and queerness, which it kind of points out is a really bad comparison. That some people can get pretty harmed whenever you call each other extremely poor names, and how society just compares the degeneracy with anyone on the LGBT spectrum. Thankfully, society has progressed a lot better than the 70s, so we've come a long way.
Thank God. Yeah. Yeah, no, completely agreed. And I like that perspective because, I'm not going to lie. When I first cracked this open and we got into that part of Randall here, and he was talking about that and everything, again, like, and what anybody, their orientation is and all that, like, I fully support, like, none of that, matters to me in any negative way or anything. But there's certain words in here, and me and Bob talked about this whenever we did the Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer episode. Sometimes like to reflect what's going on or to speak in a certain way or whatever, they use words that that aren't part of my vocabulary, something that I wouldn't use. Like they use the N-word a lot in that book, and me and Bob were like, we both loved that book, but we're like, ooh, it's hard to even read that word in my head, like I'm almost bleeping out in my head because it's so ingrained in me. Like, that is not a word that you use, of course. And in this book, there's some words that I would consider like a bad word, slanderous word or whatever for queer people. And I did the same thing. I was like, ooh, I don't want to say that out loud, or in my head, like or whatever. I don't have a voice saying that word or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I get it for the character and everything. It's kind of it's kind of like taking that and like owning it in like some kind of different way or whatever, or not owning it, but taking that as I don't know. It's super hard to articulate what I'm trying to say about it, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting because, of course, JT4 is thank you for that. Is queer himself, and this book is obviously going to have a little bit of himself in it. Now, I wanted to ask you guys, especially, I wanted to know what you thought about this, Nick, because I have thoughts on it. What about the main character here, and his name's Michael, Benny? Is that what you said? Because I kept missing
yes, Michael.
Okay, Michael.
I think that's what they call him at the start.
Okay, yeah. So Michael being a comic book writer and going and interviewing this guy, like, what did you guys think about that? Because obviously, standing in for JT4 there a little bit, having that perspective. And then, of course, saying things like, I don't do those kinds of books anymore, and all of that. Much like he won't do superhero books or write Batman or anything anymore, and only does his creator own stuff.
It's really hard not. Yeah, it's really hard not to see the parallels between the main character and and James, especially because he does this. He's done this before. He did this with Nice House on the Lake. The main character of that, the alien in that book, the main character of that is him. He's specifically stated that in interviews before. And all the people that he invites to the lake house are all of his friends, and he's based them all on his friends. So it's hard not to see the parallels, especially when he says something like, what he is queer, he has glasses, he has his haircut, like he has similar appearance, he is a comic book writer, he's literally talking like it's him. And the fact that he is interested in this serial killer and he's like interviewing him for some reason, which I thought that was really interesting because we don't really know why he's doing it. He said that he's doing it for a book or for some purpose, and then the guy keeps saying, but that's not really why you're here, is it? And then we just don't really know why he's there. So yeah, it's hard not to see the parallels between that. Obviously he puts himself into this book a little bit, and I just think I really want to know what is the relationship between this old guy and the main character, Randall. His name's Randall, right?
Yep.
The old guy who gets accused of killing the kids, and Michael. I want to know what their relationship is, because when he gets back into the car with his boyfriend, he says, "Oh, what was he like?" And he says, "Familiar." Like he's like, he's very familiar to me. Like I don't know where I know him from, basically. So I'm very interested in that in the next issue.
Yeah, that part almost threw me through a loop a little bit too, because I was trying to read it, for what it was, and I was like, familiar. I'm not sure like what that means. Like, does that mean he feels like he knows him? Does that mean he's like a familiar type of person, and given the connotations of whatever may or may not have happened, or he may or may not have been a part of. I guess it's safe to say it's pretty clear that he's been accused of this, but he's not the person that did it. Obviously we have it's happening again, so, and he's incarcerated, so it's probably most likely not him that did this in the past, but yeah, familiar seems odd. And then some of the dialogue that the character talks about and everything too, I was like, familiar. I'm just not sure what he means by familiar. But I'm with you. I want to know what that means. I want to know how they flesh this out and everything. But this story is just like jam packed in this book. Like, it is insane how much they got through in this, and how much. I mean, it's such a short comic. Like, there's barely anything there, but we're going from 1973. We're in current time. We're seeing this killer almost get caught and then get away. We're seeing this guy in prison for it, and then all of this interview process, which pretty much I feel like that kind of takes up the bulk of the book. But we also get some of this really insane, like, gory slasher movie kills in here too. It's like jam packed. It's so dense, full of stuff, and they really get a lot out. Is this like? I didn't look. I should have looked ahead of time. I think this is just a 3-part mini, though.
No, I think this should be 9, right? No?
Is it 9? Okay.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm seeing 4 solicited right now.
I remember seeing something that said 1 of 9 on it.
Okay.
And I remember thinking that's really long, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be
I thought that this would be like a 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4, but 1 out of 9 seems like pretty long, especially if this is like once a month.
Yeah.
It's like almost an entire year.
We should mention that this first issue is a pretty long one as well, at around 40 pages.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say this for anybody who hasn't read it yet, it's not deceiving or anything, but you crack open the book and you've got like a pretty good portion where there's not really any dialogue, or there's very minimal dialogue. And then of course, once we get into like the interview process and stuff like that, that thickens out a bit. But it's not like super dialogue heavy or anything. Like, it's definitely not exposition heavy at all. James definitely knows how to write, so there's not exposition dumps or anything in here. But I would say it's like a very, very good mixture of silent panels, and then panels with very, very little dialogue, and then like jam-packed conversations in a panel. which is I feel like that's something, you know, a lot of people can't pull off. Benny, you were just talking to me about a New Mutants book that I absolutely love, and Nick, we were talking about New Mutants just a few episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
I love Chris Claremont, amazing writer, but I mean, we all have to admit, you know, some of those books are just dense with dialogue. There's so much dialogue. It's like a novel with a, you know, some pictures in it, but to be able to like walk that line of there's enough dialogue in here to tell you the story, but I'm really going to let the art breathe and tell the story is something that like James really nails. Like, I think that's what makes him such a great writer. And that's why I end up loving all of his projects. There's honestly not even a book I can think of his that I don't love. The only one that I haven't read that I can think of off the top of my head is I still haven't dove into the Closet book. I haven't read that yet. I don't know if you guys have read that or not, but I've heard
I have read that. Yeah.
it. Yeah. Okay.
It's really short and it's only 3 books, which kind of like off-put me a little bit because I was like, oh man, like, because I wish it was longer. That's a good problem to have though, you know?
yeah, definitely.
But it was only 3 books and I thought it was good for what it was, which was just like a 3-part miniseries about like the, he always does the good parallels of like the horrors of society and the horrors that are like supernatural or the unknown. And I really like that about this too, because this whatever's killing people does not seem like human to me. Because of the face and like the beard is covering, and then like you said, it was like a porcelain type of mask.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't really seem like it's like a human creature to me, which
she's uncannily thin and tall as well.
Just
a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, I like that he has those parallels between like the horrors of society and the horrors of like the unknown. And I think that's really cool. And I do really, we haven't gotten into this though, but like, yeah, like Benny said, I love the design of the creature or the person. I love that it's just like a hunched over Santa Claus. And he looks like super larger than life, like really skinny and tall, almost like a Paul Bunyan kind of figure. He's got the axe and everything. I really like his design. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool design. It's very interesting. It's almost like I don't know exactly how to word that, but like it's more like creepy than imposing or something. I almost feel like it would be I don't know, maybe like easy to outmaneuver it or something, but probably not. I mean, it's so like in its presence, you would just be, you know, stand still and not know what to do.
He looks like he has so much reach. Yeah.
Yeah.
He could just reach over
absolutely.
and grab you.
Yeah. Like you're not going anywhere. So what about the kills in this? Are you guys like either of you big like horror or slasher fans or anything like that? Because this actually has some interesting kills for a comic book. Pretty brutal.
Yeah. I want to hear Benny's take on this.
I think the first body we see is this amazing tense reveal where this old lady is going through a store and there are these long and thin panels and it gets closer and closer. And then you flip the page to a corpse sitting in a chair with its eyes gouged out, just covered in blood. And then you flip to the next scene with little time to stay on it. And the reveal might be my favorite in this comic.
Yeah, that was an very interesting reveal. And then, you know, from there, like we have that, and then we flash over to the police, you know, out chasing the deviant killer and everything. And then they open, what is that, like I'm not sure where they go into, but where the 2 kids are like strung together.
It's like a barnyard door.
That's what I was assuming, like a barn. Yeah, okay, yeah, here we are. Yeah, like a barn.
Just your average abandoned farm.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, those are out there, of course. But,
yeah.
You know, and I do like that. I like that you say that, Benny, because, you know, of course I've watched way too many horror movies in my life and all of that. But every time you do see like an abandoned building, a barn out in the middle of nowhere, like a closed down factory or whatever, like, does your mind ever go to, God, I wonder what kind of shady shit's going on in there? Like,
always, every single time.
Yeah. I'm like, I really respect like the urban explorer people who just go like break into like abandoned buildings. Cause I'm like, y'all are crazy, dude. I'd never go in there. Now whatever happened in there is going to be pinned on you. Like, no, not happening. Yeah. But
talk about the kills though. when the lady, what Benny was describing of the lady going through the department store and then seeing the
Yes.
guy in the Santa chair and everything like that. The thing that really like grosses me out about that kind of stuff is the sounds, and it's just
Yes.
gurgle, gurgle, and it's just gurgle, gurgle. So he's alive, right? He has to be because he's gurgling.
Yeah, exactly. And
He's like gurgling, and his eyes are gouged. We could talk about how disgusting the kills are, and like I think we're kind of understating it. His eyes are gouged out. It looks like something has been done to his mouth, like that was gouged out, and like maybe his tongue got ripped out or something like that. There's blood everywhere, and then when we get to the barnyard, there's two boys strung up, like, and these are supposed to be young boys, so this isn't like adults or anything like that. And they're completely naked. They're strung up with wrapping ribbon, Christmas lights, and they're also what looks like to be like either gutted or castrated. So this isn't like for the faint of heart, like looking at stuff like this.
No.
This is pretty gross stuff. Like it's not
very intense.
It's not like easy going James Tynion stuff where we're just like, oh, like there's creatures, there's monsters. No, this is like disgusting, like to the point where like the police officers are throwing up.
And I'm not going to show and I'm not going to show that full page spread there because it's like Nick said, it's pretty intense. But they're fashioned together like kind of back, not quite back to back, but like side to side, basically with their arms up and with I don't know what that's called, ribbon around them and ornaments and lights. Like they look like a Christmas tree. It's terrifying. That is a terrifying visual image. Like I will have nightmares about that tonight. And thanks a lot, Josh Hickson and James, whatever the hell your last name is, for putting that in my brain because I didn't want to think about it. But like you said, I'm not sure what's implied there. I don't know if they're gutted or if something else has happened, but it's very intense.
Yeah,
very intense visual. Look, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. We're cutting it close to the 30-minute mark, and it's hard to, like I said before, at the top of this is densely packed. So for us to break down everything in this book, it would be a 3-hour podcast, and nobody has time for that. But this is there's so much to explore in this book. Like if you've not picked this up, or if you picked it up and you haven't read it yet, like absolutely crack this book open. It's well worth the read. It's very, very good. And like you were just saying, and like you said before, Benny, this is not for like squeamish people. Like if gore and stuff, like if you can't handle that, you're probably gonna have to stay away from this book. It's a little intense, but the narrative is so good. It's written so well. The perspective in here is so cool. The kind of stand-in for James the Fourth there, and his life as a comic book writer and his out as a queer person in the world of comic books and everything, like all comes across in this book. It's stuff that is out there that he's talking about through his art and everything, and I respect the hell out of that. I think that's very, very cool, to get that out and talk about it in whatever way, because I don't want to stand on a soapbox here, and I can't relate in the way of experience or anything, but I am like a huge advocate for the LGBT plus community and all of that. So I support the hell out of that, being out there and that being part of the conversation. I think that's very, very cool and very, very good. And who the hell doesn't love James Tynion the Fourth? So, or Tynion the Fourth, or whatever Nick said his name was. So
you'll get it one day, Dan. I think you'll get it.
I told you, once he comes on the show, I'm going to continue.
No, you can't say that because you said that about Michael Dianalysis or whatever.
I did, didn't I? Didn't I? Yeah,
I forgot his last name.
Even close. Yeah,
I always think
butchered
it's like dialysis.
Saying it. Yeah. Well, he told me that when we were talking. He was like, people have called me Michael Dialysis before.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, just don't say that. And I was like, oh, I probably already did, but all right. Anyways.
So yeah, I had a couple other things to say about the dialogue back and forth. But Benny, is there anything that like stood out to this for you? Was there anything that was like, I don't know, is there any like panels that you were like, oh, this is great, or dialogue that you thought was cool?
There's one piece of dialogue going back to the conversations about the writer writing comics. There's money in it. You'd be surprised. That sounds a bit like James IV peeking through his narrative.
Oh yeah.
One big thing I'd like to say, the balance of horror in this is simply great, with the cuts back between time and the pacing and the contrast of the claustrophobic panels with the full spreads of a menacing figure or a corpse. Oh, it is just wonderfully done.
Probably the most underrated things about comics is that they can show passages of time in a relatively easy way just by placing a bunch of panels together or spreading them apart. We don't really talk about pacing a lot, but the pacing in this was perfect. Like when they're in close quarters, the panels are small. When there's like a big open scene, the panels are big. We don't really think about stuff like that, but like that has to be communicated to the artist a lot of the time to make sure that they know that like there's a certain passage of time going. Besides the fact that it says Milwaukee 2023 or Chicago 2023 or whatever. There was one piece of dialogue between them two because it's very like I love the interview process with this kind of stuff, like the crime scene type stuff. I've always been interested in that. I also like the killer aspect. He says Mr. Olson, right? He calls him Mr. Olson, and then he says Randall's fine, like he's trying to make him more comfortable being with him. And then he also says, "You want me to react harder, don't you?" And I just thought, and the harder word was bold. And I was like, ew, that's gross. Like, that was so gross. And it's because he knows that he's gay. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. And he's just trying to make him feel more like that he knows, and he's giving him like hints into like, I know that you're gay. Like, he's like, I'm gay. Like, I can totally tell when someone else is like that too. He's like, you don't have to tell me. We could just act how we are. He also calls himself an old queen. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I was about to say that was really good.
But this guy's eyes are like this Randall guy. He's like, I'm an old queen. And like, when we think of like the tropes or like the like what a gay man, I think of like Los Angeles, West Hollywood, and like very flamboyant and stuff like that. And this guy's got like, he's balding. He's got like slick back hair. His eyes are sunken in. He doesn't look the best. Like, it's just, it kind of throws away the facade of like, you don't really know what someone is just by the way that they look. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And
he looks like a killer, and he's probably not.
Yep, and he's reduced to what his life has been in prison for all this time and all of that. Like, there's not much you can do with your looks or anything there, I guess. I'm with you though. That interview process, I really loved that part of the book, and that's pretty much the bulk of the book with a lot of other things going on. But I haven't watched this movie enough to say like, side by side or anything. They're obviously two very different things going on, but like the Silence of the Lambs, just like, it gave me those kind of vibes. She's got to go straight to the guy in prison to catch the other guy or whatever the hell was going on in Silence of the Lambs. And like, they have to talk, one-on-one together. So she's got to like, take herself out and be very vulnerable with this guy and talk to him and everything. And like, I see like a parallel to that somewhat. But again, like I don't think it's a rip or anything. Like, it's a very different story. But I really like that about this. I think that's the only thing I like about Silence of the Lambs, because I'll be the first to say I hate that movie. I hate anything that has anything to do with eating people. I can't handle. So that's like my biggest fear in the world is like someone eating someone else. So no thanks. But but yeah, I really like that part of this book. I think it's really cool, and it's like, the way that that James and Josh are able to make this feel really close. And somebody said claustrophobic earlier. I don't know which one of you it was, but I feel that way. Like, I feel like I'm in that room with them. Like, they do so well at this view and making you feel like, there's a camera in the room capturing this conversation and everything. It's just done masterfully. This is top-notch comic book writing and really insanely good illustration on top of that. But guys, I don't know. We're at like the 35-minute mark. I don't want to take it too much longer. Just give me your final impressions of the book. I will go ahead and say first, outstanding. I love this book. I thought it was really, really cool, and I cannot wait to check out issue number 2, which drops December 20th. So just a few days before Christmas. How cool is that? So I really liked it a lot. And then whoever wants to go next, please raise your hand and wait for Nick to call on you.
Go ahead, Benny.
Yeah, I definitely think this will be a great Christmas gift to yourself, and treat yourself nice to a holiday massacre with this murder mystery.
I can't say it. I can't say that any better. I'm not gonna say anything. It's a good book.
Can you imagine? Look, that goes on like that's like the little quote on like the bottom of the graphic novel. Like it'll be like it'll have that quote and it'll say from Benny on all different number one comics podcasts. But yeah, I'm with you. Maybe just don't give it to, a little kid who's like scared of like gore or still believes in Santa or anything, for Christmas. But other than that,
yeah, don't give it to anybody who doesn't want to see two naked boys tied up and castrated
and murdered. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you though. Nick, please, your final thoughts, and then your
thumbs up. I will read the second one. I will read anything that this guy puts out, pretty much. So it's just like it's a no-brainer for me. And didn't get to say this before. Art is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that he doesn't get too much into detail with things a lot of the time, but the lighting, the art, the coloring, very cold, very like dark, very distant. Love that kind of stuff too. So I thought this book just hit on all notes for me. So I would give it like a 8 point. I don't usually do rating system, but I did it on our first podcast. So I'm gonna do it right now. I give it like an 8.6 out of 10, which is a really good score for me. So.
Oh yeah, 8.6 out of 10. That's, I don't know. You work at school. That's like a B or something, right? But sure, a high B.
Great grade first. Yep, it's a great grade.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm with you. I really like the book a lot. And just to shout that out one more time, yeah, I'm the tone of the illustration here really fits the writing. So the combination of these two working together just knocks it out of the park. Super good, firing on all cylinders. Love it. Make sure you guys check out issue number 2, again, dropping 5 days before Christmas on December 20th. Benny, Nick, thank you guys so very much for joining me today to talk about the DEViANT. Much appreciated. And unless you guys have anything else to say, I'm going to let you go.
Thank you for having me. Very nice to see
have a good Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Have some nice Christmas dreams about this book.
All right. Me and my girl are going to Mexico. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you guys? How are you guys doing?
Great. I'm actually researching. It's funny you say. I mentioned you're working in school. I'm researching to look up a job in school for behavioral management or resource teacher.
We need those.
Nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Heck yeah. Yeah, dude, I've been good. I think I told you last week I had like a show coming up. So I played last night, and it was like it was cool, but it was like the wackiest thing ever. Like we actually played at an elementary school. So and it was both of my bands. So it was like a little like fall festival fundraiser thing. So I played like outside like on this stage. And then immediately when I was done, this band, went on after us. I had to like grab my stuff and then run inside to the auditorium to play with the other band. So it was a lot of fun.
Do you play the same instrument in both bands?
Yeah. I only played drums, nothing else. So.
And then what type of music was it?
Like, so the first band is the like top 40 cover band, like the pop cover band basically. And then the other band's like the indie folk band.
Oh, got you.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it was like, it was weird. It was like super wacky. Like the one inside the auditorium, like the indie folk band, like we didn't play any of our music. We played like some weird background music that we wrote. And then like little kids came up on stage and sang. Like it was fun. It was cool.
That's cool.
Else? Yeah. Lots of fun. But heck yeah. So we got stuff going on, man. I'm hanging out in elementary schools. You're going to Mexico. Benny was just telling me that he's got like some cool trivia he's going to tonight. So we're making things happen. Look at us. We're not lazy comic book readers.
Benny, you a huge trivia guy or what?
Yeah, it's a pretty small community on island, and a bunch of people will every now and again try their hand at hosting trivia, and I love going to support people whenever they do it. This time, my friend is doing the trivia.
Oh, okay, cool. Have you ever thought about doing that, hosting one?
Ooh, that would be a lot to take on at the moment, but it would be fun to do for like a small group of friends or something like that.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, around here there's like tons of breweries that always do trivia, and I always like I always want to play, but then I hear the questions. I'm like, I must be horrible at trivia because I am not good at getting any of those questions right.
Yeah,
you know
I
what? I think the
overestimate
same
my guessing
thing.
ability.
Yeah, I think the same thing. But like a couple of months ago, my friend took me out for my birthday, and we went to like this little brewery and did trivia. And like between me and him, we only missed like 2 questions. Like the whole time, there's like 40 questions. Like we like nailed it.
Oh wow!
Still didn't come in first place, but but it was pretty cool. So yeah, you know more than you think you do. That's always the case.
Yeah, fun to untuck those little bits of knowledge.
Yeah, you're like, wait a second, I know that. So I'm always great at Jeopardy, but I know the second, like if I was to be on Jeopardy, like I'd have no clue. I'd be like, what? What's the letter A? What? What's 2 plus 2? I'd have like no idea. I'd be terrible at the pressure of that. Like that would suck.
Yeah. So Dan, before we get started, here's a little bit of trivia. How do you say our author's name?
Oh God, no, don't. So look, Steve Fox and Michael nope, can't say his name either. They both have like yelled at me for not being able to say James Tynion's name, but that's what Michael was telling me last time. He was like, "Look, it's like a tie, like James Tynion," and I was like, "Okay, my bad." So I'll go with James Tynion the 4th.
I've read or seen or heard that it's Tynion. It's not even Tynion.
Okay, it might be.
Yeah, so I heard it was James Tynion. That's what I've heard. Which is weird.
I keep shouting him out like every episode. I'm like, dude, come on the show and tell me how to say your name. But you know, he's too much of a comic book rock star to answer back to me. So. We all know he's listening, but he just doesn't want to come on and teach us how to pronounce his name. So whatever.
Maybe if I get his name right, James Tynion, come on the podcast.
Yeah, come on down. One of my favorite things is I listen to a comic book podcast where they just kind of like they talk about like every single book that's out like every week and just like do a little blurb on each one. And they always like they can't say his name either, so they're just like JT the 4th, and I'm like or JT4. I'm like I like that.
The 4th iteration of Justin Timberlake.
Hell yeah, man! He's starting to look that like. Have you guys seen him recently? He's lost so much weight. He looks really good. Oh, yeah. I was like, damn. I need to get on that diet. That dude's killing it.
Compared to I think when Nice House on the Lake came out, which was like not even that long ago. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. Yep. He's lost a ton of weight, which is crazy. I remember seeing interviews with him on Nice House on the Lake, and then seeing interviews now, and there's a huge change.
Yeah, really big. And I mean, you know, not to shame anybody. I mean, you know, do whatever's good for you. But like, but yeah, I mean, he was a big guy, like really big, and yeah, he's slimmed down a lot. He looks great. So awesome for him. But
congrats to him, man.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if we compliment him enough, then he'll come on the show. Yeah.